You're either growing or you're dying.
I see hundreds of builders and I would buy from you. You're such an amazing guy. And then some people you're just like, yeah, man, like I think we need to really whack the marketing up to 7,000 and, get the sales dialed in because...
You get taught how to be a great carpenter and how to build great projects,
Yeah.
but who teaches you how to build a great business?
In margin improvement of just a couple of percentage points for a building company owner is like quite often life-changing. If you're just like bubbling along and then presenting $1 million quote, it's like, holy moly, take me out for dinner first.
Yeah, big thanks again, guys, for coming on.
No, thanks for having us.
The topic that we were chatting about having you guys on with is really around the whole sales. We're talking to a lot of guys always, just like you guys are. And our focus is on helping them with the storytelling and marketing. And then sometimes we're seeing when it comes to sales, they're complaining of having trouble converting it or closing a sale.
We love this topic, so we can talk until the cows come home and just tell us when to shut up.
What do you guys love most about what you do?
The ability to impact these guys is very in reach, even when they're in a really shit space, right? Because in margin improvement of just a couple of percentage points for a building company owner is like quite often life-changing because of the size of the revenue and the size of the projects that we're dealing with. So the ability to like have a huge impact on these guys is in reach and like able to be done even when people are in the shit or even when they're killing it sort of thing. And that's super rewarding because often the roadmap to them working with us, they have gone through their apprenticeship, they've mastered their craft on the tools and stuff, they've built exceptional projects and nobody's taught them how to run a business yet. And some of the really fundamental basic stuff can really swing a big door wide open for them. So we're just helping people that are already great at what they do build a really great business, and that is doable relatively easily because it comes back to cash flow, margin, profitability on a project. It's very easy to do that when you're already doing great projects, which is great. That's the people that we work with.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, look, this whole building space, like it's a tough space.
Oh, dude, there's probably
Like
very few businesses that are tougher to run.
I'm excited to go into today's podcast about, like running a real good business and also maybe focusing a little bit more on the sales, and love to hear your sales process that you suggest builders use. I think, our audience is very open to, looking at how do I improve my sales process?
What are some of the common symptoms that you guys see when you go, this guy needs help? It's a sales, like I mentioned to you off camera earlier, and you're like, he just lacks process or something like that.
Yeah, so typically a lot of building company owners don't have a process. They don't have systemized marketing. So they're competing on price typically. And if you don't educate people on your process, your product, your people, then it'll come down to price. So we need to educate the market on, there's 4 key questions everyone has before they'll buy from you, no matter what it is, and especially building, because it's a high involvement purchase. Typically it's like big risk, big reward. It's the biggest investment of anyone's life. And so they're going through a decision-making funnel in their mind before they, they're problem aware and then the solution aware. They're looking for who's the best builder for our extension, our renovation, and our custom architectural build. So they want to know, who are you, who's your company, can I trust you, and how specifically can you help me? So sales becomes easier when marketing does the heavy lifting. So we want to help solve that in the marketing, which is a great thing you guys do with your videos. And then people have got concerns, 5 key concerns. So timeline, budget, communication, trustworthiness, and quality of work. So we want to be showing all the systems and processes that they have in the marketing and in the sales process that's going to help alleviate those concerns. And we want to make sure that we show the systems that help ensure that they're going to get the result that they're
after. You want to make it tangible, right? So like quite often, they're having that conversation with the people, but it's a very intangible chat. You're like, don't worry. Like we're great at quality, we're part of an association. Or like, I know you've heard horror stories, but we're different. We're great at communication.
We're gonna build it like it's our own.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, sure thing, whatever you say, right? But
so it's kind of like they just make that statement of like, we build quality.
Yeah, you got to make that intangible really tangible to actually demonstrate the reality of, not competing on price. So show them the quality control checklist, show them the communication schedule that you set or on an existing project schedule, show them what, if you've got an online portal, what it's going to look like as a client, so they can actually see, I'm going to get daily updates, I'm going to be able to see behind the curtains. That's actually going to alleviate the concern a lot better than just going, nah, man, like it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We build it above industry standards. It's like, okay, sure you do.
Yeah,
exactly. And
that's
like
so
if
true.
you're doing a renovation, people are worried about who's going to be on your home. Are there going to be loud radios? Do you use tarps, for example, or drop sheets? Are you guys going to be swearing on site? Because I've got 2 small boys that are 10 and 12.
Yeah, leave nails around. Like, where am I going to cook over the 3 months that am I going to be moving out, staying in? Like, how's this work?
Man, it must be tough for builders because they've got to overcome all these problems. Like, how do you simplify? How do you process, I guess, that? It's hectic.
Well, you do exactly that. You process it down and you break it. So the first thing that we do with all of our members is we map the sales process, because even if people say that they've got the process, quite often they haven't got it somewhere visible and visual where they can then reference it daily. Like if it's hidden away on a spreadsheet or on a software, that's level 1 and step 1, but it needs to be then visible so you can see it. Because
if we drill back down to like first principles in terms of builders, when they start the building company and so on, like if you look at the path that they take, they would probably start on the tools. We do have a few clients that started in different industries, like real estate, or we've got a client that sold stuff at Harvey Norman.
Yeah. Or they come out of project management and engineering.
Yeah. But so the traditional path, right?
Yeah, it's
so
not sales.
They see themselves as a builder.
Exactly.
Sales.
And then they're also going to go like, oh, well, the project and the beautiful catalog of previous projects will sell itself. But that's far from the reality,
You get taught how to be a great carpenter and how to build great projects.
Yeah.
But who teaches you how to build a great business?
Yeah.
It's a very different skill set. Learning how to market, how to sell, how to price projects, how to lead your team, how to hire, how to offboard, how to understand your financials.
Do you guys believe that builders need to shift their mindset to, hey, I'm a salesperson?
I'm a business owner.
Exactly. And sales is a skill that you, as a business owner, you need to have, whether that's to sell and re-enroll your team into the vision, or sell and re-enroll your clients into building with you, or your sub-trades, or whoever it might be. Sales is a fundamental skill that's required as a business owner. So yes.
So as people progress up the builder's ladder and their business grows from, startup to survival to stability to scale and then to success, they go through these different revenue stages from 0 to 2 mil, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus. And you need a different identity at each one. So in the early stages, it's that of builder. So I'll solver, people want to deal with me, I'm going to be called back to site, etc., etc. And the focus is around doing great projects. But you can't outgrow your identity. And so at that first sort of 1.5 to 2.5 mil is where a lot of builders get stuck in that identity and those limiting beliefs that will keep them stuck where they're at, instead of taking on that business owner identity. And the business owner thinks differently. They're like, how do I solve this with a better system? How do I get a better process in place? How do I get better people to actually do what I want? And how do I check or inspect what I expect? And that's through scorecards, clearly defined job descriptions, regular meeting cadence that shortens the feedback loop and closes any, holes that you might have in your bucket. So, and then lastly, as you're growing up around the sort of 10 mil plus, is where you step from builder into entrepreneur. And that requires a very different mindset, multiple businesses, building out your management team, making sure you've got a great project manager, great estimator, and then they're supported with contract administrator, etc.
One thing that most people will avoid is, I've got the lead in, I'll give them a couple of hours or days.
Don't want to look desperate.
I don't want to look desperate, exactly. I'll give them a call tomorrow. So, dude, if you walked into a restaurant, like last night, we walked into the restaurant and we were waiting around at the front. Like, should we just take a seat or should we wait for the
great
server?
Steakhouse, Moo Moo's, Gold Coast, fantastic, highly recommend.
But it was only 90 seconds, but it felt like way longer because we're just like, should we sit? Should we stand? Like, I don't know.
And especially when you go into something where your expectation is higher, like at that restaurant.
This is somebody's biggest investment of their life.
Yeah.
And
A steak.
It's biggest investment of their life, building like a custom home or doing a reno on their house.
100%.
For a forever build.
It's probably all they're thinking about at this moment.
Exactly. you should be dialed in so that as soon as that lead comes through, somebody calls them back within inside of 5 minutes. Speed to lead is one of the most important aspects and metrics in terms of like your ability to convert somebody through your process for the rest of your sales process. So whether it's the office manager or you or somebody else who's able to, like an agency, but somebody should call back every single lead within inside of 5 minutes.
And ideally it's not you.
Yes.
It's like, what,
Yeah,
you're
I
a
agree.
one-man band in a van? Like,
Yeah.
have you got nothing better to do? Do you not have any other projects on?
Yeah. If your process can keep you as the prize, that's
Yes, pitch anything, Oren Claff. I love it.
there was one of our clients up north who the wife came from a sales background, and he was trying to do everything, and she was trying to support him in the back end, and then they just switched roles. She processed the crap out of their sales process, so you don't meet him until you've signed contract and he starts on your site.
Oh yeah, true.
And like they do small size projects like bathrooms and stuff, and typically you hear, oh, people would never pay for a quote in that small stuff. They pay for a consultation with her.
So good.
And it's just
absolutely.
incredibly systematic.
Horses for courses, and it's
Yep.
like you've got to have a process. Otherwise, what Marty's saying, like you're going to follow the buyer's process.
I'm going to ask you guys a silly question right now. Why get back to a lead? Why get back to an inquiry?
That is a retarded question. Where are you coming from? In what way? Like,
The reason
as
why
opposed to let them go dead, or
the reason why I'm saying that right now, you builder, you're listening to this podcast right now, watching this, you're probably thinking that right now. I know it sounds crazy.
as in I'm chocker. I've got pricing piling up. I haven't got to these quotes. The last thing I need is talk to another lead. Like, we're chocker.
Yeah, it could be because you're busy, or it could just be. I know it sounds silly, but we find people don't get back to inquiries.
I think a lot of that's down to mindset, right? Like projecting your concerns onto the prospect is a very common one, and that usually shows up at the beginning and at the end. And at the end, it's I can't charge that. That's quite expensive.
I can't even put that in front of them.
Nah,
they'll balk
like
at it.
far
Yeah.
out. That's a lot of money. So it might be for you, but you're projecting that figure onto the prospect and just assuming that they're poor, broke, can't afford it. You may have a bit of context, but you probably don't have the whole story, sort of thing. So projecting that at the end is what it looks like there, and projecting it at the front is looking like, oh, I don't want to look salesy, I don't want to look sleazy, I don't want to look desperate. I will follow them up tomorrow or the day after. That's when everybody else is following them up, right? Nobody is following them up in the first 5 minutes, and you're just going to immediately not be compared against the rest of the market. You're going to be in a category of one because nobody else is following up inside of 5 minutes. And that's where we want to be, category one.
And that comes back to one of the first principles that we work with everyone on is how do we buy you back a day a week in the first 90 days? So we have everyone make a list of what's everything that we're going to stop doing. And so you want to look at what are low-level recurring tasks. What do you procrastinate on, not doing, hate, or suck at, or is below your professional builder's rate. And getting back to leads could be something that you procrastinate on, you're flat out, you don't want to talk to another person who's got scope of works and a minuscule budget, and the two are never going to meet. So it's a mindset thing, and then it's if you can systemize that, train someone else to do it, you're going to, get a lot more opportunities and a lot more at-bats.
I think this happens a lot. It's not just one, but they go, I've done my action, whether it's I've sent a quote, right? Which is probably the wrong way of doing it in the first place. Or I've sent my email, like I got an inquiry in and I replied on that inquiry with an email, which again, probably the wrong thing to do. Yeah. And then I've done my part. Now it's up to them to come back to me.
Yeah, that's a common one. I think the story you're referring to, one of our guys was getting good inquiry coming in, and then he would jump on them. So he was doing that thing. He was jumping on pretty quick, but then he was just fire hydranting them on the phone. And I didn't realize this. I would often love to be a fly on the wall with a lot of our guys, but we're just fire hydrant them. Information. We're going to charge you for a quote. We're going to set process this, and then get off the call, send them the email, and never hear back.
Yeah. So there's a few ways you can approach it, but the first way that you initially want to break a problem down is by working out whether it's a process problem or a person problem. So if we had that sales process mapped out, we can probably see a huge drop off at that stage. And we'll be like, okay, problem's here. We can circle that. And then the next part of it is fixing that process. But if it's still an issue, then maybe the person needs some sales training and some actually upskilling in their ability to chat with somebody or run a site visit or present a quote or qualify in or out politely, have some bedside manner and stuff. But yeah, like process, map it, identify the constraints, fix that, and then look at the person after that.
So I think if we look at the 7 key steps in a sales process and we break down what each part is and why it's there and what it's intended to do for the buyer and how it's intended to position the company. Yeah. So we run through this with all our members and we give them plug and play tools to put in place. So in the 7-step sales process, the first thing is you get an inquiry. It's like, how did that inquiry come in? Did it come in through an opt-in lead form? So either in Facebook funnel or on your website, or was it a phone in? Either way, we need to capture the people's details. So if you've got a website that is a 1980s brochure or isn't a direct response website and it's not, capturing people's details, then fix that, right? Because it's otherwise people are coming into your shop, you're not getting their details and they're walking out, right? So that's one of the first things. The next thing is, do you have an automated system to get back to them, to let them know, hey, you're valued, we're going to be in touch straight away, and this is the process that we're going to go through. So what Owen was saying earlier about making the intangible tangible, we want to give them confidence that this is a step-by-step process. Here's what's going to happen at each step. Here's what your obligations are. Here's what we're going to do. And this is the desired outcome that we're going to end up at. So the first key thing after that is then, do you have a script of what you're going to say? And don't be scared of script. It's just a framework to make sure that you cover everything that you'd normally say. It's in a process. It leads people down a funnel from general to specific, and it arrives at a clear next step. Mm-hmm. It's cool. Hey, welcome to XYZ Construction. Just so I can help you best, you might have asked you a few questions. Tell me about your project. Have you got consent? Have you got plans? What's your budget? Okay, cool. The next step is we're going to fill in a more detailed qualifying questionnaire. Are they your ideal type of client, right? So in sales, involvement leads to commitment. So the more micro steps that the person has to do, the more they're getting more and committed. So whether that's selections, fixtures, fittings, having to fill in a questionnaire.
And this is why in building, it's so beautiful. Like we're building a really stunning project often, and it can be very tactile and real and therefore highly involved. And it doesn't need to choose all the selections. But we can throw stuff from a sales perspective at them, like, have you considered your master bedroom feature wall? Like, what splashback you're using in the kitchen? Show them some supplier brochures, and we get our members to go through and build out their info pack and their lookbook, right? But exactly that, like the micro commitments and that emotive commitment of like choosing stuff with you in mind and forward pacing you as the solution.
I really like that. One of our guys who has a killer sales process, he gets someone an inquiry, does the bit of vetting with them more detailed, and then gives them homework. Mm-hmm. And start making selections before we sign, before we get really into bed. 100%. And then that homework keeps them busy and excited and attached to him. So by the time they present, they haven't had time to go and shop around.
Absolutely.
Kind of like you guys walking into a restaurant and waiting for 30 seconds, feeling like it's a long time.
It moves you from salesperson to trusted advisor. Yeah. By educating, nurturing, positioning you that you're there to help them through this big decision and big investment and big potential high involvement decision. So once we then have a qualifying questionnaire, right? So not just involvement from the prospect, but are they your ideal client? So we need to determine like how many kilometers are they within range? When are they building? What kind of build is it? Does it suit your team? So is it a custom architectural new home at 2.5 to 5 mil? Or is it a small kitchen, reno for 25K? And then we're going to see, are they people that you actually want to work with? Are they A, B, or C categories? So then once they've done that and we've qualified them in or out, you might refer them to another builder and then take a 1% referral fee for sending them on their way. We're then going to go, great, we're going to position the next call. So cool, the next step is we're going to send you out an information pack. It's called a wow pack. And that's to do with, that goes before you arrive on site. Because if you arrive on site and you haven't sent them any information about your company, they're going to be like, well, Yeah, like what do you do, and how many of these projects have you done, and whereabouts, and
Yeah, the framing is really off.
You haven't positioned yourself or
Exactly.
framed.
Yeah. So the info pack is key because it turns up before you turn up, and it takes them from cold to pre-sold, so that you're on site able to take them from pre-sold, to sold, and that sold we'll get to in a sec. But that's like preliminary service agreement or charging for quotes in a world where you can't can't charge for quotes and stuff. So yeah. But
Absolutely. So they've got all these questions in the back of their mind, right? Like I've heard of builders going under. How do I know that my money's safe? Well, you read in there, hey, we've got a separate bank account for your project. Your money goes into a trust account, so you know that it's safe, and we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're not taking money from another project to fund yours, or I'm not out buying a brand new Ford Ranger or
Raptor.
Amarok. Yeah. Exactly, right? So you're overcoming one of their key concerns, and you're putting that everywhere in your How We Work With You video, in your info pack, on your website, etc. So that's like, cool.
Yeah.
Tick. That's another.
And that's making that intangible tangible. So ideally, when that info pack turns up on site, it should be on the front, and below it should be some supply brochures. But on the very top of it should be a handwritten note from the office manager saying, boys, your project's super exciting to us. Check out page 12 where we've done projects super similar, and then check out page 3 to meet the team.
Exactly.
Colin is going to be your foreman on this job if you choose to proceed with us. And then it's like really personal, and you're like, and that's why we call it a wow pack, because when they get it physically, they're going to go, wow, nice.
I like that.
Category of 1.
Yeah.
So it covers, the info pack is like your website brought to life, and it covers everything from your magic story, how you got into business, who the company is, who your team is, your process, your project management, your guarantees, who your suppliers are, the specific systems and process, like here's our quality assurance, 287-point quality assurance checklist. Here's our rules of the game for the guys who are going to be on site during the reno. So this helps answer everyone's questions and put this at ease, versus you compare that and it gets couriered.
How many bills do you get in the mail? How many bills or good things do you get via courier? It's like Christmas, right?
So they've got to sign for it.
Yeah, and typically it's just 1 or 2 a day, at the most. Like we probably get 3 or 4 couriers a week.
And you can change this for your story that you said earlier, where somebody's doing like let's say they're doing pergolas, or they're pricing out like 500 bathrooms annually or something. It's like, cool, maybe this is a PDF with a Loom video, and that's delivered via email.
But it's still got that personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're doing custom new builds, and like the reality is you're building probably no more or less than 10 a year, and maybe you're then for pricing out somewhere from 12 to 25, dude, it's
a no-brainer.
1 or 2 a month. Like,
It
come
is.
on, you've got time for this to improve your margins from 22% to 23.5%.
And the sexier stuff you can put in there, the better. So some of our members will send out, here's the Master Builders magazine where we won House of the Year award. Here's another magazine that we advertise in. Here, these are some of our suppliers that we work with.
Yeah, here's the rugby club we sponsor.
Leverage all of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, what I love about it is like you're customizing it to your business to really build that trust.
100%.
Like trust is probably the key word in building, right?
People buy from those that they know, like, and trust, right? So this is all really important, because at the end of the site visit, so this is all pre-site visit, you then turn up and we would have a really clear agenda for the site visit, because it's basically a sales call. Exactly. So we're going to go through a client selections checklist. We're going to go through and meet the team. And maybe you suck at all of this and you hate agendas. Well, cool. The info pack's there. Open it up and flick through the pages for the first 5 minutes and flick through the pages for the last 5 minutes.
Project management, the milestones, how payments work, what we're going to do in terms of your scope of works, what are the inclusions, what are the exclusions. So we're going to run through that and answer all their questions that are flying around in the back of their mind.
Yeah. And then this is where you can't charge for quotes, apparently. Because at this point, at the end of that site visit, you'd go, boys, do you want me to run you through the next steps? And you're like, cool, awesome. Well, the next steps are super straightforward. And then you whip out the presentation, a quote or something else, and you go like, cool, so our professional service is what happens from here. Professional service is really straightforward. We give you detailed timeline, accurate budget, bound booklet. It's going to look like this, something different, right? And this professional service of ours includes all of this, and it costs X. Are you happy if we proceed like that? Awesome. I'll just get you to sign here. This is an authorization to proceed agreement. Just says that it gives us the opportunity to present our quote in person. They sign it. That micro commitment, participation leads to commitment, right? That micro commitment of them signing something, and whether or not, the agreement can be enforced, it's about them making a commitment to you that you're going to give them the opportunity to present their quote in person, and it removes them their crocodile brain from the buyer's cycle, because they're like, cool, I've kind of committed to somebody at this point. I'm not going to go cheat.
It's good.
Yes.
Yeah. And 90% of people typically proceed.
And it doesn't feel like a sale for the buyer, right?
And the
And if
difference
you've
is
got
next logical
Yeah.
step.
And if you got no leads, then that dollar figure is like $80. And if you're drowning in leads, that dollar figure is $8,000. Like, call it whatever you want.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's getting them to make a financial commitment. It positions you a lot more trustworthy, professional advisor. We actually charge for our time versus the guy that's like, oh yeah, should be about $3,500 a square. Go away and price that up if you want.
I can probably price it for you by, I don't know, June the 20th, and then June the 18th rolls around and goes, oh, boys, might have to push this one back. I'll give you June the 25th or something. And then it's just like, I had actually forgotten that you were going to present that quote for me on June the 20th anyway. So whatever.
What do most of your builders charge for that?
Typically anywhere from
Professional service.
$1,500 to $4,000.
Okay.
Typically we see a lot of guys around the 3.5 mark.
Yeah. But we've also got members that...
Leon from Melbourne.
Yeah, so Leon in Melbourne went 7 from 7, charges about 3.5 for his stuff, and dialed that all in.
Just that one strategy that he was sick and tired of doing free work, charging quotes, running around to his sub trades, getting prices in, and then people just using it to price check him against 2 or 3 others.
Yeah, well,
it was like, I've had enough. Something's got to change.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked with him closely, dialed that process in, and within the space of I think about 4 months. Signed 7 deals, paid for all of them $3,500, paid for the coaching program, and then just all the other strategies. He's built a great business.
Well, it's got that flow-on effect, right? Because now you've the initial conditions of this relationship with the client is on the right foot. They see you as the expert, they trust. I love that. It kind of reminds me of, like, I've told this story a few times on the podcast. Like a few years ago, I wanted to start like my investment property kind of thing. I'm a business owner. I'm busy, so I found out about this buyer's agent that goes out and buys a property. It's somewhere in Australia. It's not necessarily in your location. It's in a high growth area, blah, 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 all these things, right? And his whole thing was like a quick triage call kind of thing. And he said, cool, the next step is a strategy session. It's going to be $2,000. It's on the phone. And then I said, and then this is what it's going to achieve for you. This is the value you're going to get from it, X, Y, Z. If you want to proceed, let me know. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I found that call, like, I was on time. Both my wife and I, we were there, both decision makers, right? I had my pen and paper ready to take notes. He's the expert. I trusted him, worked out the whole strategy. Month after that call, he presented the first property. We went ahead, done. 2 years later, 2.5 years later now. And I saw value in that 2,000. It was a 60-minute call.
Yeah. I think that's the key that you just mentioned there. It's packaging up what is going to happen, what are the benefits, what are we going to go through, what are you going to come out of it with, and give it a sexy name.
Yeah.
Whether it's a dreams to reality session or whatever it is.
Totally. Because you're going to go through that work before breaking ground anyway. And there's very few other professional services in this world where they'll do that work for free, right? Like you ain't going to your accountant or lawyer and they're just like, no worries, brother, I can do this.
And you don't go to Woolworths and go, I'll take this bottle of water, and then maybe pay later.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Pay for it, like it's
100%.
And then so you go away, you price up the project, you talk to your sub trades, you get all your material prices in, your takeoffs. And then you come back to present the quote.
Well, even
the action
in that
plan.
middle part, we want to do the keep warm sequence.
Yes.
Right. So like the whole pricing for profit is something else entirely. We should probably have another chat around that.
Let's do another podcast
next time we're in town.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, by the way. And while you're off doing the pricing for profit process, you need to be doing the keep warm sequence, because the worst thing that you can do is go, don't worry, we've got you booked in for 20 days from now, we're just going to go price this job, and then crickets. You want to use that opportunity to educate them and educate them typically around your process, your people, and your projects, right? Everything that's not price, right? So I want you to meet Craig. He's our foreman. He's going to be overseeing the job. I want you to see this. We're just coming to the end of this project. I wanted you to bring it to your attention because it's got similar finishings to yours. And here's a little bit of a behind the scenes on where we're at process wise. We've just got the quotes back from the subs. We're still on track for June the 20th. And, just so that you know where to come, here's a map of the office or where we're going to present the quote to you, and we're looking forward to it. You want to educate them and keep them warm during that process.
And this is where what you guys do at Biz Video is pure gold, because it's right in that wheelhouse. So it's, here's how we're going to work with you video. Here's some case studies from people who've done a project just like you. Here's videos from our key team. Here's our process. So by bringing that to life, it helps make it way more tangible, reduces the risk. They get familiar. You move from salesperson to trusted advisor. And it's basically like you're already on the same page with them and basically in the process of building.
Exactly.
And it's yours to lose.
100%. The whole micro commitment thing. Because if you're just like bubbling along and then presenting $1 million quote, it's like, holy moly, take me out for dinner first. Like, bro, back up.
I'm not going to put out.
Take me for dinner. It's all good. Whereas like if we've done the info, like, welcome to XYZ Construction. You've done let me send you an info pack. You've done the questionnaire. You've done so this is what we're going to do. Sign this, do that. It's like, oh, yeah, of course.
And
like we're
like
getting
talk about those micro commitments, and they're so important. And we've definitely seen that. Even them like watching a case study or giving time to consume content. I mean, that's a little micro commitment. I've given up my time to consume X to read X.
Click. Watch the first 5 seconds. And
then commit to watch the rest of it because the first 5 seconds grabbed me. But it's amazing how many of our guys I'll help because I'll often have catch-ups with them. How are you using the content? Yeah, we're running all these systems and putting in place for you on the back end, but how are you using it in your sales process? And that's a big one. It's like, yeah, we said we're going to quote it. And like, how many weeks until you present the price?
Yeah.
Oh, 6 weeks. Right, awesome. And how many times are you touching that lead during that time? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What I mean? Like, not at all. It's like, well, and I often call it like all that valley behind closed doors that they won't know about until they've finished a project with you. Then they've felt that experience. That all needs to be communicated in that. What was the term used?
We keep warm sequence.
Keep warm sequence.
Yeah.
Look, I maybe I'm a bit of a geek for this kind of stuff, right? But for me, if I'm a builder and I do not have this process in place, it is harder than having that process in place.
Yeah.
Like you guys have just explained something to me. So in my mind, I'm like, there's 30 things at least that the client, the prospective client experiences from the builder before they even get that first commitment, like to sign for the quote. There's 30 things that happen that might seem overwhelming to builders, but it's not. It's more overwhelming not to do it.
As the business grows, pressure comes on your people and your process. If you don't have any people, that's pressure coming on you. And if you don't have a process, that's doubly on you, right? This process is designed to break it out so that you can deal with exactly and then delegate elements of it off to somebody. So like you were saying earlier that that person, the builder wasn't even meeting them until they were starting the project, right? Awesome. They've broken that entire process down and managed to find people for each of those different stages, whether it's an office manager, an agency, a project manager, contracts administrator. Like there are a lot of people in your team that you can build this into their scorecard and their scope of responsibility for. But if you don't break it down, you can't do that.
There's 2 types of pain that you're going to experience as a building company owner. You can either take the pain of discipline, of building out this sales process, putting in place the plug-and-play systems and processes into your business over the next 90 days, doing the hard work once and having a repeatable, scalable system that gives confidence to the client and consistency to you, and winning jobs, bigger jobs at higher margins consistently. Or you can have the pain of regret of not putting this in place, of winging it, relying on hope marketing, word of mouth, and not having a process that educates and nurtures people and positions you as the go-to builder that should be paid a premium for the biggest investment of people's life. I mean, the choice is yours. Absolutely. So the next step is we want to have a high converting action plan, otherwise known as a quote, that we're going to present to the client. Now, the key thing here is to make sure that you've got both decision makers and you're actually presenting it in person. It's critical that you've got both
In
decision
person?
makers.
Why can't you send it?
Oh yeah,
I'm just
true.
joking. But like, yeah, it's
so
a big
cool.
one, right? Like a lot of builders just send their quotes and think that's how we
Absolutely.
do it.
And what would be the first thing that you do when you get a quote?
Last page,
scroll to the
bottom
bottom.
right.
Yeah, what's the price? Exactly. And the whole point of this entire exercise has been to educate and nurture on variables other than price: timeline, budget, trustworthiness, quality, and communication. And like, cool, price is a factor, but if you're going to present exclusively price, then send it.
Exactly. Then that's what they'll use as their variable to choose you from. Now, in that meeting, you get to overcome their biggest concerns, answer any objections that they might have, point out how we're dealing with apples versus oranges, that it's not just price. Here's why this other builder's price is cheaper. Or
Missed the
lower.
roof.
And
I've seen that.
Here's what he's missed out.
he's missed the whole roof.
I think it happens all the time, right?
I know, it's wild.
Absolutely. So that's a big one. And the key thing is, our members, we take best practice because we've seen under the hood of 2,700 plus building company owners throughout the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK. We take best practice of who's got the highest converting quote template, and happens to be one of our boardroom members, Richard. We take that. He wins projects at a high margin because he has everything dialed in. He overcomes people's concerns. He has great business, has epic systems. So we then share that with everyone else, and that allows people to follow the same recipe. So if you want to succeed, follow someone who's achieved the result that you want. Use the same process as them, and you'll get a similar result. So whether that's baking a cake, if you get the recipe, follow the same ingredients, follow the process, you're going to get a very similar result. So we do that. We take best practice every week from our members, ask them if they're happy with making this available to other members, and then we give that available as a plug-and-play, high-converting quote action plan. Like imagine if every building company owner had that available. Just that one thing would be a game changer, let alone Hayden's systems, process, scripts, qualifying questionnaire. And then, so you have that high-converting quote. It's probably going to take 3 to 4 weeks to get it beautified, put into practice, best practice. And then, when you're actually presenting it, some of our members will do things differently. So they'll go to the client's home. Other people actually have them come into their office, and they'll have their whole team there, like Brendan from Auckland. He'll have his whole team there. So he'll have, this is the designer. She's the lady who went through your custom design with you. This is the foreman who's going to be on site. This is the project manager. He's the guy that you're going to be meeting with every week. And here's what the meeting agenda looks like. We're going to go, we use Buildertrend. Here's how you log into that. Here's how we use it. This is Wendy. She's our marketing lady. She's going to be taking a video of your house because we'd like to enter it into the Master Builders Awards, and you'll get back a video that you can show your friends, family, etc., or any potential purchases in the future. So putting all that shows there's a whole team, there's a great process, there's a high converting quote, it answers all their concerns and objections. And the difference between that
and sending us an email.
Yep, or the unprofessional process of not knowing how to go through. So we have a framework of how to present the quote as well that we run all our members through. But
You don't have to go into detail, but what are some of the things in that quote?
Well, for starters, it's not 7 pages of numbers. It kind of goes through who are we.
Yeah.
Like it represents it very similar to the info pack.
Right.
So the first couple of pages is going to be like, who are we? You know, what makes us different? Our process, meet the team, guarantee,
suppliers.
exactly. Preferred partners, trusted suppliers, things like that. And then the middle section would get into the details of the quote. So we'd break it down by stage, and we would disclose
so
varying
not going
level-
line by line items so they can price check it against 2 other builders.
Right.
Yeah. And depending on the scope of your projects, whether they're like big $3 million plus custom homes, whether they're $50,000, do-up jobs and stuff, you're going to disclose varying degrees of inclusions, exclusions, and stuff.
And of course, this all depends on if you're doing a fixed price contract, it's presented this way. If it's charge up or cost plus, then you might give line by line so that you can compare apples with apples and show the person the transparency of what you're doing.
Exactly. And then the bottom back third is then going to be list of inclusions, exclusions, what we do, what you do, and case studies and examples of other work, that projects that are similar to
how project management works, how we're going to sign off any variations. Hey, we're happy to do them. We'd love to do them. Here's what happens. We agree upon them. If they're below $500, if you're happy, we'll keep the project moving. Anything above $500 or $1,000, we'll get it signed off. If it's not in the agreement, then it's a variation or a change order. What happens, we'll price it up. We'll then put it in front of you. we'll get it signed off, and then we proceed with it. And we will invoice those to you every week so that there's no surprises, and so that you don't end up with a nasty bill that you're unaware of in, 8, 10, 15 weeks time.
This just speaks a trust to me.
Absolutely.
And professionalism, and man, like this team, especially I love the thing that Hayden, I think what you mentioned, brings the client into the office. Brendan, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, bringing the client into showing like this is the person design, like that's
absolutely.
Well, we haven't even
sales choreography. With
we
these
haven't even
around,
touched on that.
Yeah.
Like you walk them in, they sit down at the boardroom table. The boardroom table should be laid out with all of the like stuff.
Awards, magazines we've been in, fixtures, fittings, samples.
Your videos.
Oh, what, that award?
Your videos
Sitting there
from Biz Video playing on the TV while they're sitting there and waiting, and then they're kind of like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. All right, sweet. And then law of reciprocity, you're going to get them a coffee or a Coke or whatever. And then,
what book's that from?
Yeah.
That's a book every builder should read, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. There's
influenced by Robert Cialdini.
So
and Persuasion by his son. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then the last thing in that quote is an action plan. It needs to be a clear next step. This quote is valid for, and the next step is to secure your place in the calendar. We would need a deposit of by this date, right? So it's a
why
very
create
clear
that?
next step.
Why create that? Is it urgency that you're trying to create, or is it because prices change, or what is it?
D, all of the above. Our calendars are busy. We've got a lot of other projects on. We would love to, work with you. We think your project's a good fit. This is the space that we have open.
Mm-hmm. Remember, they've already paid for this quote by this point, right? Like ideally, you're not going to have to do another one, but at least your time's covered. They're not going to commit to this in the next, 2 days, 30 days, whatever your time horizon that you believe to be fair and reasonable is. Then you can get on with the next one. And again, 2.5 times target turnover on the leads board, right? You got plenty of work to be pricing and working through, because you got a marketing machine on the front end that's helping with that. So, none of, at the risk of oversimplifying this and making it sound like it's easy, it's not. There are no silver bullets, and none of this is going to work in isolation, but stacking each of these strategies on top of each other is going to have a huge impact, right? So like, you're not going to go out there, do one of these things and all of a sudden command 25+% margins and sales is easy. That's simply not going to happen. But if you layer on top of each strategy, on top of the next strategy, on top of the next strategy, you train your team. We haven't even talked about actually training you as a salesperson yet, like actually being good at sales and understanding how to handle an objection, and that it's not a reflection on you as a person, right? And to not take it personally and shit like that. Then you're going to have a good sales process and a good sales skills to be able to do all of this stuff. And then you can expect the better margins and the better conversion rates, but it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy because you're having to change a habit in a lifetime of how you've done things. But the first thing is changing that belief, so any limiting beliefs that you might have. Second, if you've got plug and play systems and processes that you can put in place, like what we have for our members. And then lastly, you have a community of other people who've done what you want to do that you can talk to, and we have Zooms every week, and you can reach out, talk to the other builders. And then lastly, you have one-on-one coaches. Like I think we've got one of the biggest teams of coaches. Like we've got 31 people in our business that can help one-on-one, help you get this stuff into play. So imagine where you could be if you just did one little system per week in your sales process. So first week you got the scripts in place and you trained your office manager how to answer the phone or how to have an outgoing script. Next, you got the qualifying script in place the next week. Yeah. The next week, you got wins, how we work with you, directors video in place from Biz Video. Imagine if you got those in place over the next 90 days, just how different your business could look in 90 days with confidence, clarity, sales acceleration, higher margin projects, more cash in the bank, let alone where you could be 12 months from now with just the sales process strategies in place. Like, it was night and day. Like Hayden changed his whole life and his trajectory of his business in 60 days.
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of listeners are probably thinking, or maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they go, this sounds simple. However, man, this is actually huge. It's like eating an elephant, right?
It is.
One bite at a time.
So step 1, map the sales process. Yeah. Step 2, get your numbers so you can identify the constraint. Step 3, use best practice to fix that constraint. So it might be presenting the quote as an action plan, running a better site visit agenda, qualifying the lead on the front end, right? Use best practice to fix that. And then 4th, inspect the person doing it, which we haven't touched on a lot, but the reality is if you're a wet blanket, then you might actually just benefit from some sales training.
Yeah, or having one of your team do the sale,
Or that.
and you ride shotgun with them.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess, look, one thing, just before we did this podcast, we had a coffee with these guys, and we found out that we have similar mentors the last 10 years, right? So my belief is that, look, as humans and businesses, we're always evolving, right? The world is evolving around us. We need to evolve. And I think that's why it's so important for builders to, and yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, that's what you're doing right now. But that's why you need mentors. You need to be part of a community, Marty, like what you said before. I think that's so valuable. And yeah, using best practice today, like best practice 2020 is different to today, right? I mean, there's some fundamentals that'll be the same, but again, everyone was flooded with work in 2021 or whatever that time period was. But yeah, I think, investing in your mindset, investing in best practice, like that's why I love what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, question I want to ask you.
Oh, sorry, you go. Happy with the status quo. You're happy with where things are at. You rely on referrals, and which is fine in good times. But when the tide goes out and there's less work, the people who've got a growth mindset are the people who are the ones who are going to win and succeed.
The ones I feel the most sorry for are the builders that things are good, work is coming their way. I don't need to invest in systems, processes, marketing. Things are good. And then the tide does go out. And now all of a sudden, now they've got to eat this elephant in one, like you're at a standstill. How do you get this train moving again?
Yeah, inertia's a bitch, eh?
So I know you said like 90 days, and that's great. And I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. But it's still going to be harder if you don't always look long term, right? So don't just look right now. Like look at what's the next project. Think about the next few years. Think about your 26 pipeline. I think that's what we mentioned in the webinar.
I don't feel sorry for them. Like, get off your ass, get into action, build a better business, build a bigger future for your team, your family, and your community.
Yeah, make a change.
Get really clear on it. Like we call it the BMD, business maturity date. And that's your
again, business maturity date.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. BMD, business maturity date.
Yeah.
And it's your quote unquote finish line for the company in 3 to 5 years. And that could just be that you are out of sales or out of project management or off the tools. It's different for everybody. For some people, it's multiple locations. It's installing a general manager and being out of day-to-day entirely, right? It's your business. You just got to get very damn clear around it. And once you're clearer on that, you can then have a much more accurate plan of what you're actually building. Otherwise, you're just going to build yourself a busy job with overheads, not an actual business that gives you the whole fucking reason we got into business in the first place, time and money, right? Like it's just a vehicle for you to achieve what you're after. And whether that's a $25 million building company or a $2 million building company, like politely don't really care, but you each needs a set of systems and processes and people, right? And that's either you or it's a team or it's whatever you want it to be, That's
good. Guys, I know you guys are busy. I know you've got to do a lot of things on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, we got our 2-day event
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Theme parks to go to.
Yeah, theme parks.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. It was absolutely, our pleasure.
Great to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Love what you guys are doing.